Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of the Dad Hat Entertainment News and Reviews podcast, where we'll discuss the world of modern entertainment media, television, video games, and movies. I am your host, Sean Fontaine, along with co-hosts Jessie Skillings.
Hey.
And Derek Lloyd.
Hey everybody.
So it's been a minute since we've recorded, it feels like. Has it been almost a month? Or has it been like 3 weeks? I can't remember.
It's got to be a month.
At least a few weeks, yeah.
I know that in general our schedules have been pretty crazy. I know yours has been, Derek, being, having to juggle reopening the stores and whatnot. How's that going?
Yeah, it's coming along. We had 2 weeks where we were allowed to do curbside pickup. That was met with mixed results, but it was nice to be able to do something again related to the business. And now we are back to being open, which has been very nice. A lot of support from the community, and of course we're doing everything we can to keep the place safe and following all the Massachusetts state guidelines on how things should be handled and run. So off to a good start, and hopefully that will continue.
Nice. I always thought that you guys should just pull the tables outside so you can spread out in the parking lot so people can come game outside.
Yeah, you're not the first to suggest it, and not always due to the coronavirus. Sometimes people just wanted us to do that anyway. The tricky part about being outside is sometimes there's wind, and playing cards, in particular, that can make for a really difficult Magic tournament.
Well, now you have to come out with a new product where they're
weighted cards,
or they're steel plate cards, they're etched on actual steel plates.
That's right.
Anti-corona cards.
Yeah.
And I'll just take 10% of the profit for that new idea.
You got it. Yeah, now it's in stone.
Nice. Stone cards. There you go.
Yeah, you can just sue me if I try to do it without giving you proper credit this time.
We all heard it.
Yep.
How about you, Jessie? How's everything going now?
About the same. The kids are still doing school from home. I refuse to call it homeschooling. I miss homeschooling. Just hanging out with them and getting a lot of house projects done. So that's been nice.
Nice.
If costly.
I've actually had some time to catch up on some video gaming, so that was good. Not only did I do the one that I'm reviewing today, I had some extra time to jump back into some oldies that I didn't get to finish. I've been playing The Witcher 3 for a little bit now because I had to put it to the side for more reviews. But I was like, I just want to finish it. But I haven't finished it yet. But I was able to play a little bit more, so that was good.
Still enjoying it?
Yeah, I love that game.
Cool.
I think one of your friends, Derek, didn't
Kev Driscoll said that was one of his all-time favorite games, he said.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. It's starting to creep up on my top 5, top 3 list. So nice. I love that game.
I can't remember where we last left off, what I said I was playing, but I mostly completed Red Dead Redemption 2, and I love the first one because of its really dramatic ending, a really moving. Sad ending the way the first one concluded, and this one didn't disappoint. It has it's really emotional. It's a really emotional game. You get invested in this character that you're playing, and you come to like him and his redemptive arc. I mean, it fits the game, right? So, and then it ends with these really sad endings that are. I like that though. It was really cool to feel the emotion when you're playing those games is what makes them so great.
That's good to hear because I just recently downloaded that because it's free currently on. It's either the Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. Right now, it's free if you have either of those services. It's one or the other. I can't remember which one. But yeah, now I'm I think I'll play that after The Witcher. Now you're getting such a resounding positive review.
Yeah, we've all been doing a lot of gaming, I guess, because I've been stuck in Animal Crossing still. Although I quote unquote beat it, so I was pretty proud of myself.
You can beat that game, huh?
Well, you can get to the roll credits part, where you've kind of completed all your tasks and paid off that damn raccoon.
Nice.
which I have no idea what that means. But
yeah, I won't even pretend to know what that is. But
everybody who plays is cringing with me. He's the one you pay off your home loans to, and he's
Trash Panda.
He's very cute, but he's very mean. He demands a lot.
But there's still play after you end?
Oh, yeah, there's tons of gameplay, and I've started, like, building different things. My kids started playing, so we can, like, go to each other's islands and bring each other materials, and it's fun. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a Switch, so I can't play. But
I'm sorry.
I'll have to borrow yours when we can not social distance anymore.
There you go.
Or you could just ship it to me.
I could do that, yes. I will add it onto my bill of all the home improvements I've been doing.
Sure. That works.
Yeah.
All right. So for this episode, I'm going to be reviewing Deliver Us the Moon. Jessie is going to be covering this thing I've never heard of before called Tiger King. And
you're in for a wild ride.
And Derek will be bringing us his thoughts on Uncut Gems, the Adam Sandler movie.
Yep.
But before that, we're going to dive a little bit into the news. Before we get into the regular entertainment news, obviously there's been a lot of news going on in general. That is not always great news, to say the least. I do want to take a second at the beginning of the show here to just briefly touch upon the news pertaining to the death of George Floyd and all the subsequent things that have been happening since then.
We know that the world and the country is going through lots of difficult challenges right now, and it's hard to offer what seems like upbeat perspectives on frivolous entertainment topics like we cover, but we know that most of you are probably tuning in to relax and escape from the turmoil that's filling the airwaves and social media and places like that. So just want to let you know that we're thinking of you all and that we're hoping along with you for, a brighter day on the other side of all this. It's difficult stuff.
Definitely.
It is. And thank you for, jumping in there, Derek. I couldn't have said it better myself, which is why I didn't. But yeah, so I definitely wanted to touch upon that. So moving on, we do have a couple of other entertainment news stories that I wanted to touch on. So the first one is from Nerdist. It is a let's see, I'm gonna pull it up real quick here on my computer here. The article, which really wasn't an article, it was actually a YouTube video from Nerdist about why the critics aren't on board for Space Force, the new comedy with
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell, sorry, yeah. So I haven't actually seen any of it. Has either of you seen any of Space Force?
I watched the first episode, and I kind of agree with a lot of what they had to say in it. Like, it's okay, I think, was like one of the quotes about it. It doesn't quite seem to know what it wants to be. Like, is it going to be a goofball comedy? Is it going to be more sitcom comedy? It's really hard scene to scene and episode to episode to kind of figure that out, I feel like.
I think with Steve Carell being in it, it probably set the bar pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting more The Office in space, I guess, or in government, and didn't quite get that. And that's fine, but I don't know.
It's funny. Like it is going to be. I mean, have they already? Is it going to a season 2 yet? Do we know that? Is that?
I don't know.
I don't think they mentioned that.
I wonder. Like, I mean, I haven't. So yeah, to answer your question, I haven't seen it yet either. I haven't seen it yet, but I almost clicked play on the first episode multiple times, but just haven't pulled the trigger yet. I can't say that it like. I don't know why. I love Steve Carell. I love pretty much everything he's done and been in. He seems like a really great dude. I just, for some reason, I'm not very drawn to the show for some reason. I don't know why. But I will probably get around to at least checking it out. But there's a part of me that wonders, sometimes it takes a show a little bit of time to really get into its groove. I remember, did you guys see Parks and Rec?
Yeah, the first season was a little rougher for some people.
Yeah, it was like mean almost or something. It didn't quite find its heart until the second season, I felt. I mean, it had its funny moments, but it all seemed very like almost like mean comedy, But yeah,
so that's almost like a writer's shakeout kind of thing. They're really just kind of finding where their groove is in the first season.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's worth giving it a watch because you never know who's going to enjoy it, you
Right.
know? But it just wasn't for me. I think maybe if somebody watched ahead and was like, oh, it gets so much better in the 5th episode, maybe I'll sit through 4 other episodes and see.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to discover it myself, I guess, after the first one. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Sure.
I think it's funny. There's a follow-up news blurb on Nerdist about the show where they said that Netflix has actually beaten the United States government to the punch on getting the rights to the name Space Force in like the international market.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That is pretty damn funny.
I got news for everybody. It's not a great name. It's like, don't fight about it. It's
Is that
really
news?
not. Yeah, that's not great. But
I agree.
I mean, NASA has a cool sound to it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
For the longest time, I thought they were kidding. Like, I really was like, no, that's not real. That's people are making that up because they don't like Trump and haha. And then I was like, oh no, that's real. So yeah, I don't know.
It sounds like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Space Force.
Exactly, right? Like I think they can safely let that one go. You hear
Plus
me,
the
U.S.
Starfleet
government,
symbol.
let it go.
The Starfleet symbol is what did it for me.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
Speaking of Starfleet, nice segue.
Oh, look at me.
Our other story that I wanted to touch on is that CBS All Access has signed on or has purchased the first season of a new show, which is going to be a spin-off of Star Trek Discovery. It's, what do they call it? Star Trek... Oh, come on.
I actually didn't write down the
video.
title. I'm sorry. I just wrote down my thoughts.
I think it was like Brave New World. No, man, I'm going to kill myself for not writing it down either. But so
That
basically...
new Star Trek show.
The new Star Trek show, which is going to star the cast who play Captain Pike, Number One, and Spock, the new Spock from the show.
Yeah.
And it follows their adventures prior to the adventures of that we know of the original series where Captain Kirk takes command of the Enterprise. So I thought you'd find that interesting, Jessie.
I did, and I have some thoughts.
Oh.
I don't know. I love Star Trek. I mean, I do, and I've definitely watched everything with an open mind. Enterprise was like really rough at first, and I ended up really enjoying it. And kind of the same with Discovery. It's not really my thing, but I get why people enjoy it. It doesn't feel very Star Trek to me, but that's just me. I think a lot more people enjoy it than don't. But I think at the beginning of that video, when they start talking about the new series, they were like, oh, set your phasers to familiar. And all I could think was, yeah, like way too familiar. Like I just feel like it's all been done and everything's piling on top of each other so closely with us not even being into season 2 of Picard yet. And Star Trek Discovery, I think they're going into like their 3rd season, I think. It just feels like a lot, and like they're just piling on to the Trek fandom.
Is it Strange New Worlds?
Yeah, I think it's
Could be.
Strange New
Yeah,
Worlds.
that sounds familiar. So, I mean, I'm much more excited about they said there was like a prospect of a Section 31 show, which I think would be way more interesting.
That does look like the Commander Georgiou, the character where she came from the Mirror Universe. I think she's badass. I love that character. But yeah, with the whole clandestine, organization within
Who really
Starfleet,
runs the Federation? Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That
Or
looks
Starfleet.
ripe for good storytelling. But I don't know. Like, I guess the proof is in the pudding. Like we always like to say, this new show, which is gonna have Spock and that cast. I'll give it a shot. I
will
agree.
too.
I do agree where there's a lot of Star Trek piling on top of each other. Like there really never has been more than one Star Trek show out at a time, right?
They only overlapped by a couple seasons for like Next Generation brought Deep Space Nine in an episode, and then I don't remember if Voyager overlapped with Deep Space Nine, but yeah, it was Oh, it
But
did,
it feels
actually.
like they were separate, right?
Yes, they were it felt a lot more separated. They had like the one episode of, hey, you're familiar with Next Generation, so let's introduce you to Deep Space Nine. And then, that kind of wrapped up naturally. And I don't know, it just, you'd think as a fan I'd be excited, like I said, but it just feels like a lot. And maybe I'm showing my age, but I feel like, oh, it's like they're producing so much so quickly. Like, why is it special anymore? I don't know.
Yeah. And again, like, I think the character of Spock in Discovery isn't horrible, but to see him flesh out the character more in like a full series kind of treads on dangerous ice, I think, for fans or super fans who like know Leonard Nimoy as Spock, from both the original series and the movies, subsequently. Yeah. I don't know. It's fine if you follow, Captain Pike, because there was only that first pilot episode of him, and
which I kind of liked.
Yeah,
like
he
was just like mysterious, and like that was part of Star Trek history, and now they're gonna like flesh it out and make it. I don't know.
It's like there's also this impossible thing about it where really there's no way that this new series is going to like feel like a seamless inclusion before. You know what I mean? Like you're going to watch this new thing and it's going to have all the new things that can be done nowadays. And then you'll, some people will finish it and be like, oh, let's go watch the very first episode. And
God.
It's just going to be as jarring as you can possibly imagine. It's
right.
So many children are in for such a nostalgia trip with their parents, and they're going to regret it so much.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to do what, inevitably comes is the reboot of the original. Like this is setting us up for that, maybe.
Oh gosh, everybody get their hands on the original DVDs and VHSs now, because we don't want a George Lucas on our hands.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be coming.
It probably is.
Because why make something original when you can reboot everything?
Right. Of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's my problem with it. Everything just feels like a reboot in Trek, and I feel like there were so many more stories to tell. That's why I'd rather see the Section 31. I think that sounds more interesting. It's new.
Yeah.
It's
we got a Bill and Ted sequel coming up, right? That's not exactly a reboot, but I guess it's a reboot. So the same dudes at least, minus the George Carlin.
I saw that trailer. The one thing that stuck out to me the most is that Keanu Reeves' voice changed so much since the original. It didn't sound like him.
It's weird. It's really weird. It's like the uncanny valley of Keanu Reeves. It's just
it's like Keanu Reeves' dad trying to sound like Keanu Reeves as a kid. Like
yeah, exactly.
Goodness.
I think they just got a little too old.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm gonna. I'll be there for them. I'll see it. But. Yeah.
I mean, that was another one of those guilty pleasure movies from back in the day. Like, it was obviously not, even remotely, like, intellectual.
Right.
Which it was not meant to be.
It's just a product of its time, and then this is just a nostalgic nod to it, and, we'll see.
Alrighty. So, alright, jumping off of there from the news, I want to take a minute to thank our continual support on our Patreon. Again, if you would like to support us, you could do so at www.patreon.com/dadhatnewsandreviews. If you're like a lot of us who don't have a lot of extra money to spend for support of that nature, by just going to your favorite podcast outlet and giving us a favorable review or write-up, that would help us tremendously. And thank you for the people who already have. I saw that as of now on iTunes we have 7 5-star reviews.
Oh, nice.
So, and we have 2 write-ups. I don't have them in front of me right now, but they're, very nice and glowing. Thank you very much. So keep the reviews coming. We'd love to get the feedback, and it helps us to be found. Also, I'd like to take a moment to speak about our hosting service, Buzzsprout.
Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast but just weren't sure where or how to begin? Join over 100,000 podcasters, like us, already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. The team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. They supply all the tools you need to get you up and running and sharing your message to listeners on all the major podcast directories, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You can start with some gear that you already have, like a smartphone recorder and a quiet space. And if you want to upgrade, Buzzsprout has tons of guides to help you find the right equipment at the right price. At Dad Hat, we did quite a bit of research before landing on Buzzsprout to use as our hosting service, and after using it for a while now, we've come to realize that it was the best choice by far. You'll get a great-looking podcast website, audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, tips and training videos, and more. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and helps support our show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast.
Also, if you'd like to put an ad in our podcast, we have some space here for you, and you can do so by contacting us at dadhatnewsandreviews@gmail.com. Not only that, but you can get some really cool merch as well by going to our Teespring store. I will put the link of the store in the description. So, I think because we had spoken about space a lot at the beginning of the show here, I'm going to take the lead here to kind of still fit that space motif and talk about the game I've been playing. It's called Deliver Us the Moon. It's a third-person sci-fi action-adventure thriller. It was released back on September 28th of 2018, which I actually wasn't aware of back in 2018, and it was developed by Kyokin Interactive. It's currently available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, Microsoft Windows, Linux, and Macintosh operating systems. I've been playing it on my Xbox One through their Game Pass service. Deliver Us the Moon is set in a near-future environmental apocalypse. Again, another apocalypse, but at least this one's got a little spin to it, where Earth's natural resources have been depleted, and in an effort to solve the energy crisis, all the global powers have come together to create the World Space Agency, or the WSA, and have secured a promising new source of energy on the moon. The WSA colonized and operated from the moon until one fateful night, all communications with the colony ceased, and energy from the moon was lost. Now, years later, you assume the role of Earth's last astronaut on a do-or-die mission to investigate what happened and save humanity. I think this is a very timely review because of the SpaceX launch with the 2 astronauts that were sent up to the International Space Station. It just really was very cool that happened right around the same time I was playing this game, and it just got me all pumped for it. But anyway, I digress. You play as a astronaut mechanic named Rolf Robertson. You had actually been sent on a previous mission with your partner Sarah to the moon to find out what happened and fix the power transmitter, but you were both separated and Sarah was left behind. Now you are determined to get back, rescue your partner, and save the planet. So no pressure. The gameplay starts off with you listening to a news reporter talking over a radio station. She mentions that all around the world, friends and families of the missing lunar colonists are gathering tonight in remembrance of the 2054 MPT blackout that resulted in a global power outage and loss of contact with the lunar colony. So you start off the game in first person. You're in what looks like a barracks of some sort, and there are news clippings strewn about the room, which look to be like some kind of NASA or WSA station. The documents that you look at show the events between then and now, which is 5 years later from the blackout. One of the news clippings describes the MPT as a microwave power transmitter, a device that is run by a reactor located on the moon. It is powered by an element called helium-3, which is found abundantly under the lunar surface. So from here, you prepare yourself to launch from the WSA facility you are currently located at in the last rocket Earth has available to reach the moon. So it's one or done. You don't get a second chance. Things start getting a little bit dicey, though, right from the get-go, as a massive dust storm is headed towards the launch site and threatens to damage the rocket beyond repair. So you are on the clock. The rest of the gameplay involves finding your way through each new scenario, trying to overcome obstacles, figuring out puzzles, and traversing treacherous terrain to make your way from Earth to an orbiting space station in lunar orbit and eventually to the lunar colony. Along the way, you find clues in the form of written messages, computer files, recorded holograms, and they all start to piece together the mystery of what happened to the colonists and to the MPT 5 years ago. The game is played in third-person perspective most of the time, switching to first person during specific events and challenges. There really isn't a HUD per se, with any info that the player needs usually displayed directly on the astronaut's suit. This is definitely an intentional choice by the developer to make the game more cinematic in nature, while not suffering from too many cinematic cutscenes at the same time. At a certain point, you befriend a small autonomous robot named Alex. He follows you around as your AI companion, helping you further to solve environmental puzzles and traverse certain terrain. You can take control of Alex and fly through the maps in first-person perspective. There are consumables like air and power that the player needs to keep track of while making their way through the game maps. If you're not careful and run out of them, the player dies, and you have to start from your last save point or from the level starting point if you haven't been saving your progress manually. Ugh, that was a mouthful. So my overall impression, this is basically at its core an environmental puzzle game. It also has a little bit of 3D platformer thrown in as well. I know if you've been listening to this podcast at all, you know my opinion of most environmental puzzle games. It's not favorable. However, I didn't feel like that with this game. The game has a definite Interstellar movie flavor to it, as well as the elements of action being plucked straight from the movie Gravity. Combining these elements within the story and gameplay makes this puzzle game surprisingly palatable for someone like me. As I play the game, I was totally drawn into the tense drama of each challenge, while feeling an overall sense of urgency to complete Rolf's mission and find out the mystery of the overarching story. I don't recall there being a way to change the difficulty of the game. That said, I did find some of the challenges somewhat easy, and some very, very challenging, actually, towards the end. There were many that fell nicely in between, though. It took me about maybe only 5 hours total to play through the entire story. If you're really good at environmental puzzle games, you could probably get through it in 3 to 4, though. Overall, my final thoughts is I think that it's a nice little hidden gem in the Xbox Game Pass store that is definitely worth the time to check out. Like I said, 3 to 5 hours and you'll play through the whole thing. I think it's a nice nod to games that don't specifically need combat to create tension, and I think that was very well done by the developers. Speaking of developers, a little bit of trivia. When I had attended PAX East 2016, when I had set up my booth, they were actually there as well. They were still in development, and I was able to speak to one of the developers, and they're really cool. They use Unreal Engine 4, which is the same game engine that I use for the game that I'm developing. So we had some common ground to talk about stuff like game development. So it was really cool. It brought back some nice memories of PAX East of yore.
Yeah.
And this really totally slipped under my radar from that point. I'm so kind of perplexed that I didn't catch it when it came out, but now that I've found it, I'm very happy that I did.
Nice.
So yeah, I definitely recommend it.
That's cool. I might give that a shot. I like the idea of a game that isn't so big. I mean, everything I've been playing lately is just these big sprawling games that take, they're sort of meant to never be finished. Even when you finish the main line, there's so much more there, like more than really you could ever really complete, like Red Dead Redemption 2 just has so much stuff, you hunt every animal in the game, steal from every place it's like you can just keep going and going and going. And, Fallout 4 had that, the game concludes and then you can just keep building settlements forever if you wanted to,
Yeah, only a few hours of gameplay sounds kind of nice, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely just a nice little self-contained tidbit of entertainment,
Yep.
So real life, you can fit it right in between. So
yeah, it's good.
And I'm in this big space kick right now. For people who know me, know me on Facebook, they probably saw that I recently obtained a telescope because I'm getting back into astronomy, which I found really exciting as a kid. And, with all the extra, time we have on our hands and, like the skies are being, they're much clearer. I thought, I think I'm going to get myself a telescope. And so it just sort of like this game and the SpaceX launch and everything just really get me thinking about space exploration again. So
awesome. Are you going to do a trip to the moon if that happens in our lifetime?
For civilians and whatnot?
Yeah, would you do it?
I'd totally do it. I don't think Jen would let me, but I would be so on board, literally and figuratively.
I just want to float, yo.
Just weightlessness. I want to experience
so awesome.
weightlessness.
Yeah.
Even if, how they have that training jet for astronauts that, they take you up in this Boeing, kind of like this empty Boeing 747, and they do this weird maneuver, and for 15 minutes you're weightless.
Yep.
I'd love to just do that.
Yeah. Great.
But
Jess, you going to go for a moon ride or what?
Oh, I'm good. I don't even go on airplanes. That sounds terrifying. I will drive to my destination, and I'm all good.
Nice.
Come on, we're going to be going to Mars in 30 years.
Can you sedate me for the entire trip? Because then you can take me.
Sounds
Maybe
good.
I'll have the cryo sleep by then.
Maybe. We all know how that ends, though.
Yep.
I know there was actually, it was a few years ago when, they first started saying that Elon Musk was getting into the space race, that they were signing up people for the Mars mission that was basically saying, if you're willing to give up coming back to Earth and you want to be one of the first colonists of Mars, sign up. Would you or anyone you know probably do it?
I would not do that, no. But
I feel like my fiance would do that if, not for, me. He would probably be like, well, I kind of love you, so no. But I don't know.
But you wouldn't go for...
Me?
To go? Yeah.
No. I'm good. Let somebody else figure that out. Nope.
I would go to go. I wouldn't go
to stay.
If it was if you couldn't come back, I wouldn't do that.
But if they had civilian transport to Mars and back, you would do it?
Yeah, just long enough to get some deadly radiation passed through my body, and I want them to work that part out first. That's all.
You don't want to be the first group over, but you'll be the second or third.
That's right.
Right. Don't ever be the first for anything.
No, not for that.
All right. So switching over, why don't we give the floor to Jessie so you can tell us all about this thing called Tiger King.
Oh
some other alien life forms.
Yeah, where do I even begin, right? Well, first of all, have either one of you seen it? So I know, Sean, you said you hadn't, right?
Nope.
And you have, Derek, or haven't?
I have, yes.
You have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So at least...
I consumed it greedily.
Yes. So did my household. I will say that at least the review can be fairly spoiler-free just because... it's just too hard to summarize and ruin anything. There's so much going on in this show. Words can't describe. I'm going to try, but... So I started off hearing about it on Netflix. Everybody was kind of talking about it on Facebook and, have you seen the Tiger King show yet? And I'm like, what the heck is this? So we checked out a trailer. I think we watched the trailer with my kids around. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be a kid-friendly show. So so we sat down and started watching it one night after the kids went to bed. And I think we got 4 episodes in the first night. It kind of comes off at first as, oh, you're going to follow big cat rescue. And, kind of a little bit of drama between 2 of the owners of, the bigger rescues.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, cool, zookeeping and animals, right? So no, that's not what happens.
Yeah. And you're thinking you're kind of on edge. Am I going to have to watch animal cruelty?
Yeah,
and all that sort of
I was
stuff?
kind of wondering about that too. Which really, I do have to say, they did a pretty good job of you don't really see a lot, even though that is present. The show, for all that they did show, they were very careful about the animal abuse. But there is, a lot of implication of it. So
for sure,
if you're sensitive to that, it's good to go into it knowing that, but they don't show it. And, you know, it came around right at the start of lockdown. So I feel like a lot of people just kind of binge watched it, and you were kind of left staring open mouthed at the TV at the end of the 7 episodes.
Yep.
It's quite a roller coaster of emotions. So like, you know, you start off with the big cat rescue, and then you kind of get deeper into these people's lives. And there's, you know, murder and drug trafficking and jail time, and there's some polyamory thrown in, which I will say the polyamory community was not a fan. There was a lot of, why do they always portray us as crazy people? And,
right.
you know, like there's some underage stuff that goes on in it, and it's, you know, it's not the best light for polyamory. I will say that, but it's certainly entertaining to watch. And by the end of it, you learned a lot, but you wonder what you're going to do with that information.
Yeah.
So it covers so much. You know, there's all the rescue drama that you expect to see, and there's just such a wide range of topics. There should be a million content warnings at the beginning of it for, you know, violence and suicide and abuse, and but it is quite the story, and very hard to describe in detail without giving away every single piece of information about it.
It sounds nothing like what I expected.
It's like, not at all what I expected. I watched the trailer and just kind of went, what did I just see? And it only gets more amplified, like that. I feel
reaction. Like that was sort of part of its charm too. You know, like you watched episode 1 and you were like, all right, this is not at all where I thought this was going.
No.
And then the second episode gives you more of that in every single episode. I feel like you're saying that again and again and again. Like, you know, it just leads you so many places.
Yeah, they did a good job of like each episode. You were definitely surprised by things. I think a lot of us tried to make predictions while we were watching it. We were like, oh, this person definitely did this, and this person definitely, you know, murdered this person. And like, you kind of watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's so much more to this, and it's so much deeper, and they had all these plot twists, and the way they edited it and put it together was really, I actually think it was really brilliant. As much as it's a weird show, it was really well done.
I agree. And there's even that, like, the weird notion of how it was filmed, like the idea, like there's actually a whole story about why there is so much footage,
right?
Because that was one of the things I didn't know right up front. So I was like, you know, my skeptic meter was running high. I was like, why is the camera always going on these people? Yep. Like, what is this? Like,
and then there's such a good explanation for it.
Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah, it was,
and even that has its own whole drama around it, like what happened with that, and
like I said, I don't want to give. I feel like there's still some people out there who might be wrapping up their quarantine with it or something, and I don't want to give away like the very end or anything. But yeah, there's a lot to it, and it was definitely not what I expected, and better done than I think a lot of people give it credit for, just because of the content of it. The content is so. I mean, you're just watching these people and you're judging the hell out of them for, you know, 40 minutes an episode. But the way it was put together was really good.
Yep.
Is Tiger King like something that someone is actually called in it, or is it just the title?
Yes, that's what the main character calls himself, really. I mean, that's kind of a self-given title. The Joe Exotic person that they show throughout a lot of the previews and stuff is kind of, he's mostly the main character, but I feel like it was hard to pick out an exact main character, even though it's called Tiger King.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely the central and
the focal point.
I would be super hesitant to really, but he's definitely, it is a tragedy. The whole thing is a tragedy.
Absolutely tragic. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the polyamory parts, the animal part, it's just, it's a sad story, but it's told in such an entertaining fashion.
Yeah.
The polyamory group was, you know, the community didn't seem happy as a whole. I won't speak for everyone. And the libertarian party was not too psyched about it either, from what I can tell, because there was a libertarian in it as well, if you recall.
I'm trying to remember who that was, or what that story.
There was a
thread
campaign manager for
yes.
Joe Exotic. I mean, it's
Yes,
not
gotcha.
giving away
Right.
too much to
That's right.
some local office running and stuff like that. And the campaign manager was this libertarian who was very, it was almost like he was held hostage, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
It's just a very tangled story. So Sean, I mean, if you have the time,
I'm
and
always
wanna
up
really
for a
get into
beautiful
it.
train wreck.
oh,
Yeah,
it is a
train
beautiful
wreck, for
train
sure.
wreck.
And you'll learn a lot about Carol fucking Baskin, which is the best plot thread of the entire
So you can
show,
keep
I
up with
think.
the memes. That's the most
Yeah.
important part.
Yeah.
Nice. I got homework.
Derek and I will be talking to you only in Carol Baskin memes until you watch it.
That's right.
So,
Maybe we should do a watch party of that.
Oh,
and you guys
goodness.
can commentary while it's happening to me, so I know what I'm looking at.
happening to
try-
you is a good way of putting it.
Was it 10? Was it 10 episodes? I'm trying to remember. They
It was
10?
7 episodes, and they actually
7,
did a
okay.
follow episode with Joel McHale.
Oh, okay. I
All
didn't see
over, like, I think Apple must have sponsored it because they all had, like, the Apple headphones and the
Yeah,
iPhones and stuff. But it was actually a really interesting follow-up because a lot of the things that you think the characters, well, they're not even characters. They're actual real people. But, the focus of the documentary, you think they're going to have all these problems with how they were portrayed or some controversy that we all created while watching it. And the follow-up was really interesting because there was a lot less of that than I thought there was going to be. There was a lot less upset and stuff. So, I don't know. I recommend watching the follow-up, too. It was good.
Yeah, I'll check that out for sure.
Nice. So why don't we switch over to our resident movie expert and go into Uncut Gems?
Sure, yeah. So Uncut Gems was the Adam Sandler vehicle from late last year. It's directed by the Safdie brothers, who are kind of new to the scene. They've done a couple of films. The one I have next on my list to check out is their previous film to this one called Good Time, which got a lot of great reviews. Some people said they liked it even better, so I'm interested to check that out. But Uncut Gems, it's rated R. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes long. And again, it's also written by the Safdie brothers along with Ronald Bronstein, and starring Adam Sandler, Julia Fox, and Idina Menzel, who I didn't realize while watching it, but she's the woman who sings the Disney Frozen "Let It Go," that whole thing.
Yeah, she was in Wicked, too. I love her.
Yeah, she's great. She had a really good TV career, too. Not a lot of films on her resume yet that I saw. But
She's a great actress, yeah.
yeah, she was awesome. Yeah, so it's been out for a while now. It was released theatrically back in the tail end of 2019, but it's recently been added to Netflix, which is how I finally got around to getting on board for the ride. And it definitely is a ride. It's Sandler in another of his non-comedic roles, which incidentally I think is where I like him best. All of my favorite Sandler movies have been the ones where he kind of plays it straight, not as like a strict comedy. And in this one, he plays Howard Ratner, who's a jeweler and a degenerate gambler by trade. His life is an absolute train wreck, and all signs seem to point to things only getting worse when we first meet him. And when we meet his wife, we see that she appears to have almost completely checked out of their relationship. Howard's in the throes of an affair with a younger woman named Julia, and that's played by Julia Fox, actually. And in the film, she works for him at his shady jewelry shops in New York City, and she also lives in an apartment that he rents so that they can be together and away from his family. We can't really tell if she's after him for his money or if she actually does have feelings for him when we first meet her. Either way, we realize that either of those two choices is a pretty bad decision. We also swiftly learn that Howard owes everybody money. There's a selection of loan sharks and bookies who are all very interested in collecting the money that he owes them. And we also see Howard encounter an array of acquaintances that have loaned him valuable items, ostensibly to sell them in his jewelry shop for them. But these, we see, Howard has actually hawked to a local pawn shop so he can get more money to gamble with. And his ultimate goal, if he can be said to have one, appears to be to score a big enough win at the bookies so that he can pay off his debts, buy back all the items that people have given him that he's hawked, and maybe have a little bit left over for himself. It's like exhausting to watch him run around in his life with all these pendulums swinging in his face. And, the soundtrack of the film sort of feeds into that. It's very like, it's kind of eclectic, but it's also has this like pulsing beat to it that just sort of kind of keeps you on edge for the entirety of the movie. Like when the whole thing was over, I just realized that I was like, just tense for the entire time, which I tend to like, but some people do not. So be warned about that. So to complicate matters even further than I've already described, we learn that Howard has somehow managed to acquire what he believes to be a very rare block of uncut gemstones from Ethiopia. He's had them imported through some nefarious means that aren't clear, and he sees this strange and colorful rock to have a potential $1 million price tag, and he hopes that he can earn this payoff at an upcoming auction where he intends to submit them to. And, as the viewer, you're kind of like, okay, maybe this will get him out of trouble. We're kind of hoping that maybe he'll be able to do this, that'll get him out of his trouble. It really makes for a rough ride watching Sandler navigate this mostly like unlikable human being through the series of disasters that he finds himself in, especially when he decides to let real-life basketball star Kevin Garnett, who plays himself in definitely a weird version of himself, he lets him borrow the rare gemstone, which at the time you see as like the most likely thing to get him out of the trouble that he's in. But Garnett plays this, basketball star himself who seems obsessed with the power of gemstones. And he comes to, he gets sort of drawn into Howard's jewelry store where, he comes to believe that the rock that Howard shows him has mystical energy and that it will help him perform better when he's playing on court. And you just want to scream at the film when he lets Garnett leave with the gem, seeing how desperately he needs the money for the upcoming auction. He actually loans it to Garnett to take with him. And you're just like, what are you doing, dude? This is like, it's your ticket out of the situation that you've built. But because he's a degenerate gambler, he's thinking to himself, this will make Garnett play better. So I'll give him the rock and I'll bet on his game, right? So he's just, you can see this implosion happening. And this is just one in a series of terrible decisions that he makes that, the scenes that we see with him, with his family, are where we really begin to kind of like loathe him. He's a terrible father, completely self-centered on his own needs and desires. He clearly knows that he should be better. And we sort of suspect that he may even really want to be better. Maybe that's the shred of likability that you can find in the film, but this isn't that kind of a movie. I think one of my favorite scenes in the whole film is when his wife, played by Idina Menzel, is listening to Howard express his desire for a second chance at making their marriage work. He's like, look in my eyes and they'll tell you what I'm feeling. He implores her, please, please. She looks and her reaction is like our reaction. She like completely laughs in his face, and still it takes Howard longer than it should for him to see the forest for the trees. He's like what? He asks her, what's funny? And she's like hysterically laughing, and she's like, your face is so stupid. She stammers it out through her laughter, and we can't help but agree. He's making this ridiculous looking face, but he still doesn't get it. He's like, give me another shot. And he's like, you know what, Howard? And he's like, even his response when she goes like, you know what, Howard? And she goes, he says, say yes. What? Which I did a terrible job of throwing in. I wish we could kind of plug the dialogue in here because it's really, really awesome, because his little throwaway line there, say yes, what? Like he's not listening to her. Like those three words, it says everything about the way Howard's mind works. Like what his wife thinks and needs is practically an afterthought, something that can only be considered after his own needs are met, and probably not even then, And then she just continues, I think you are the most annoying person I have ever met. I hate being with you. I hate looking at you. And if I had my way, I would never see you again. But right after that, the response, he then offers her to punch him. She says, punch me in the face. You can punch me in the face. And I won't spoil it, but it's a great payoff there. So that was, I think, my favorite scene of the whole movie. I had to kind of like step through it, but it's highlights actually one of the difficult things that I found to take on board with this movie is, it seems like the movie wants you to be rooting for Howard, but it's not really possible. Like, I guess you sort of want him to succeed because we perceive it might lead to less harm coming to those people around him.
To watch,
yeah. And you come to like the people around him. Like I thought his wife was cool, and like his kids are. You sort of feel bad for him, and you're like, if he can just succeed, this will be less bad for all of them.
And
right?
maybe he'll wake up and
right. You're kind of hoping for that redemptive thing, and but Howard has he's completely built the ruined walls that surround him. And, of course, they finally begin to fall in on him. And as the movie stumbles towards its, climactic gamble, we find ourselves, like, remarkably aligned with the emotional swings of the bookie that has been most persistent in his attempts to collect the debt from Howard. And it's there in that moment where we share the feelings of this character that has previously been the chief antagonist of the film, that we begin to develop like a glimmer of hope for this like totally unlikable protagonist. And I definitely didn't see that coming at all. The bookie, the whole movie, you're sort of like, man, that guy's a dick, and you're waiting, and then in the end to sort of like.
Are you talking about the scene? I'm not gonna try.
Have you seen it?
Give it away, but yeah,
you did
in the pawn shop. That one.
Yeah. The final scene where he's like, there's like he almost seems to like
cheer along with him.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Yeah.
That was like just such a cool, twisty little thing to do in the end there. I was like, that's really, really cool. Like he wants him to succeed in that moment. Like it was a really, really cool moment. I won't spoil obviously how it ends, but I thought the whole thing was great. It's a stressful movie for sure, but again, I'm always on board for that kind of stuff. I like movies that make me feel stuff, whether it's discomfort or happiness or sadness or joy or whatever. So I give this one 4 out of 5 stars for sure.
Wow.
I keep it away from the 5-star because I feel like it maybe had been a better movie if I actually wanted him to succeed a little bit more, or was maybe just a little bit more invested in his character than actually despising him for most of the film, So, but yeah, good flick. Highly recommend it. Sort of a shame that it really got snubbed by the Oscars. Like, I don't really understand that. It almost makes me feel like there might be something behind the scenes. Like, it seemed like they were reluctant to even talk about it for some reason. I don't know.
It didn't really get a lot of press at all, I think.
No, it didn't. I don't really understand all that, but maybe there's reasons that I'm not aware of. But maybe that's just the way that it fell.
So did the 4 stars sneak up on you on this one? Like, did you not expect this to be a 4-star movie when you went into it?
Honestly, I actually did expect to enjoy it. And it's funny talking about the expectations of like these, I feel like for this podcast, because I'm choosing a movie and, I'm choosing one movie to talk about, there's this part of me that, always wants to talk about movies that I'm excited about. So, viewers or listeners may notice that, like, I feel like I really haven't shat on a movie that I've reviewed yet, There've been a few, I think, like Terminator, Judgment. What was it called? Was it what was that one called? The newest Terminator.
When you've forgotten the title.
Yeah, I can't even remember the
gosh,
title
I
of
can't
it. Yeah.
remember.
So like that movie, I think was one of the only
not
ones.
Genesis. Terminator Salvation. No.
Nope,
Terminator.
Salvation was the other one. Oh my word!
It only came out like a year ago, right? Like,
you know what? Who cares, right? It was a 2-star movie at best.
Your point taken.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's the thing. Is like I feel sometimes I feel bad, like because I do enjoy like crapping on movies when I dislike them, but because we, if our podcast was like twice a week or something like that, I'm sure I'd be dropping a lot more bombs about stuff that's coming out. But I tend to want to talk about things that I enjoyed watching a little bit more. So if I seem like I'm veering towards the high stars for a lot of these movies, I think it's only because I'm being selective about what I am choosing for us to talk about. So, but yeah, recommend it. You should definitely see it. Did you like it, Jessie? Or
so I actually went into it expecting to like it a lot less than I did, like expecting to be a lot more uncomfortable, and it actually wasn't as like vicious as I was kind of expecting, but it was, rough to watch for sure.
Yeah.
But I ended up liking it more than I thought I would.
Cool. You just want to scream at him all the time.
Oh,
just
yeah.
making
It's
so
definitely
many dumb decisions.
one of those movies where you're just kind of yelling at the main character like, you are an idiot.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, but nope, I liked it more than I thought I would. John put it on one night, and I was like, oh, I don't know. Derek told me this one was kind of rough. I don't know if I can take it. And I think you must have psyched me up, so I didn't. I wasn't as shocked.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So just do that with all the movies, and I'll just be able to watch all the horribleness.
Right.
What would you guys say to people who are Adam Sandler fans of the comic variety?
I think they'd still like it.
Yeah, I think you're definitely not gonna get him in this movie.
No,
being comic really.
But if you enjoy him as an actor, like why wouldn't you want to see him be an incredible actor?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Punch Drunk Love. That's like one of my little secret favorites. Have you guys seen that movie?
Mm-mm.
I actually haven't. I keep meaning to.
I love that flick. It's a little tiny weird love story. And it's I think Sandler is like one of his best roles in that one. But he's done some other stuff that I really like. It's the serious stuff, or even the quasi serious stuff. Like I even like Spanglish. That it kind of get crapped on
Spanglish.
in the theater.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Like critics were sort of hard on it, but I like that movie. I thought it was really. It's become very rewatchable. It's like when it's on, I kind of get drawn into it. And
I actually thought it was a really good portrayal of what people go through when they reach that point in their marriage where they're just not sure. Like I've gotten there, and I mean I'm divorced now, but it was a really interesting story. I can't believe it got crapped on that much. That's too bad.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of his serious acting movies. Like I've only just seen all of his comedic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Definitely check out Punch Drunk Love
and Spanglish. I think.
Yeah. Punch Drunk Love is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, did like Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood, and that's like definitely his like smallest movie, but it's really, really, really good.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I think we have come near the end here. Any final thoughts on anything, guys?
Carol fucking Baskin is guilty. That's all I want to say.
There's actually an outdoor show coming up in August in Mass. So there's going to be a live metal concert and pig roast out in Fitchburg at a Rod and Gun Club out there in August. So
cool.
Start getting prepped. Get your masks on.
Awesome.
Yes. And again, your store is open for business, Derek?
Yep. We're open at this point. You can come in as long as you've got the proper gear on your face. You can come in and shop. It's a retail stores at this point are allowed to have a certain number of people in the store based on their square footage, and without having people in the store playing games, there's no chance we'll come close to getting near those numbers. So we're in pretty good shape as far as that's concerned. So, but yeah, all three stores are open. We currently have reduced hours for this week. We're doing 3 to 7 Monday through Friday, and Sunday we're doing 11 to 3. And I'm there most days, so in the Abington store. So if you happen to come into that one, I'll probably see you.
And for new listeners, what is the name of the store again?
Battleground Games and Hobbies. Retail locations in Saugus, Abington, and Norton, Massachusetts.
Nice. Yeah, they're top-notch stores. I haven't been there since we did our little mini game there, but I would say that he runs a tight ship.
Yeah, it's place.
I gotta get out there again too and pick up my earrings from PAX and everything.
Yeah.
I have to come down and get my pass.
Yeah, that's right. I found it, by the way. Yeah.
Nice, thanks.
Cool.
I'm so dumb. I have all these little lanyards from all the different packs. They don't, obviously they're not worth anything, or whatever. But just I like them for sentimental value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have all mine.
So cool. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for taking some time to listen to us. Like, follow, and subscribe, please, to our social media outlets, and please give us some reviews and some ratings. Thanks again for listening, and we will talk to you again
Next time.
Next time. I'm not going to say soon, but next time. I'm so used to Derek saying something. I was like waiting for you to
I was
throw
gonna
something in there.
Well, I mean, if you want to clean it up a little bit, all I've got is a Carol fucking Baskin. That's it. That's the best I can do. So
I think I'm just going to keep that whole thing in.
Yeah, I think you should.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Adios.